and I have no idea. Okay, so A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. Wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma, Rabbi irzuqni ilma. Allahumma inni al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'a wa al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Wa tawakkal 'ala wa kafa billahi wakila. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanallahi al-azim. So there are two portals that we've been gifted with, and both of them are equally powerful gifts, and they are portals. And as we know, the portal is one which defies space and time. It is the shortest distance between two hearts. It's the shortest traveling road between 2 points. The first portal that we're gifted with is birth through the womb of our mother. And the second one we're gifted with is death through the womb of the qabr, the womb of the grave. And this similar resonance of the womb of our mother and the womb of the grave has been coming to me very strongly, because one can identify the similarity of the resonance by the physical attributes of those places as well. So tune into how the womb, because it carries less fear and more hope of life. So we'll tune into the resonance of the womb of our mother, which is a tight, dark void where new life is being nurtured consistently. And that life is dependent fully on the womb which is nurturing it. It does not even have the capability to breathe on its own. It's a fully dependent, nurtured experience in the womb. And there is the most closeness that we would feel, that life would feel to its creator, is in the womb of their mother as they're being prepared to come into this world. So that's one portal. Deeply connected and deeply, very clear in its presence with Allah. It's a union. It's a portal of union, because in this moment, we've not been made separate from the ruh of our creator in the way that our ego has not been born yet. So it's a unified whole that we experience of ourselves in the portal, which of course we forget as we come into this third dimension, three-dimensional space. And it's exactly the same resonance that the grave holds, that the qabr holds. It's a tight, dark space. We are wholly dependent on the mercy of the womb of our creator, wholly dependent on the mercy. Whether it is nurturing or not comes from our experiences that we have gathered for ourselves through our human experience. So the difference being, one is a fully nurturing experience, which is the womb, and the grave, where the honey that we've been fed or not fed is taken from our Amal, or how what we've been taking back to our hive. But in both cases, as is true for qabr, as is true for the grave as well, it's a unified whole with our creator. It's the closest we will come beyond the veils of our creator to experiencing our whole selves. And it's interesting how we celebrate one portal and we hold so much fear for another, except that it's not meant to be fearful because both of them are portals back to the Raham, the womb of our Creator. And as we are in the womb of our mothers, there is a womb, an umbilical cord that is attached through the womb of our Creator. We're in fact in the womb of our Creator, which is in this moment being embodied in our mother's womb. And this umbilical cord, although when we are born is cut from our mother, the umbilical cord of our soul is not cut when we come into this world. And so there is a constant nurturing that the soul of us is being fed by the Raham, by the womb of our Creator, if we allow ourselves to remember it. But most of us forget. We forget because the word for forgetfulness, of course, is insan. And the other word, which is strong because when we willfully forget, as we begin to grow up, is inkar, munkir. Inkar from what? From the Raham, from the womb of our Creator. So when we deny our relationship of the soul with the womb of our Creator, when we deny that we are connected to Him in this moment with every breath, when we deny that there is a constant nurturing being fed to us by the Raham of our Creator from His Raham, to tab hum inkar karte hain. And that inkar of the constant nurturing we're receiving from our Creator, no matter which life circumstance we're in, no matter what choices we've been making, no matter what the events of our life looks like, no matter how terrible our bodies feel, or how heavy our minds feel, or how dry our hands feel, or how poison-ridden our tongues feel, or how tired we feel in our feet, no matter how we feel, जब हम लोग इनकार करते हैं कि even especially in this moment we are being fed by the Raham of our Creator, from the Raham of our Creator, there's a constant drip, an IV drip that's being dripping into ourselves. That is when we do zulm upon ourselves. And we begin to inflict, because there is a harm that's done to us, and there is a harm that we inflict upon ourselves. And the biggest zulm that we will ever do is to inflict that harm upon ourselves, which is अपने Creator का रहम का इनकार करना. And that zulm, that self-abandonment, myself, which is connected with my Creator, being fed continuously by His Raham and through His Raham, this self-abandonment that we do is a constant self-abandonment that we make ourselves experience through all relationships of our lives, all human relationships of our life. When we are not in awareness of the umbilical cord that connects us to the womb of our Creator. So in every relationship that we would ever experience, जब हम लोग इनकार की state में हैं, we are always abandoning parts of ourselves. And the parts of ourselves that we are abandoning are in fact the nur-filled part, the pure-filled part, the full parts, the beautifully fed parts, the rich parts, the fertile parts of ourselves. We keep abandoning. Why? Bring up the resonance of the grave, because we are afraid. When a child is taught, when the child is little, that their physical hunger matters, but their emotional hunger does not matter. Their physical thirst matters, but your emotional thirst does not matter. Your feelings do not matter. I will accept one part of your existence. I will deny, मैं इनकार करूंगी as a mother or as a parent, another part of your existence. Then that child teaches, or this child's soul is being taught to go hungry and to live with this constant famine and to accept it as their everyday reality. And the famine of the soul is a terrible famine, because it cannot be fed, although this is how this is the irony of it. There is a soul which is constantly been brought up and living in famine. And because it's so used to famine, it does not deny its hunger. It's still hungry, but it doesn't know where to get its nourishment from, because us soul ne inkar kiya hua hai कि there is a primary nourishment that's being fed to it, because it's hungry, because it's in a state of constant famine throughout their lives. Thus, hungry soul will begin to look for things to feed itself. And that's the beginning of our ego identity. That's the beginning of our desires. That's the beginning of our attachments. That's the beginning of our fears. That's the beginning of our limitations. That's the beginning of the dryness of that famished soul. It is with this famished, dry soul that we enter into every other relationship. And depending on how soon we have experienced this famine of the soul, the earliest relationship that we would have is through our parents, and then through our friends. And then as we grow up, through a larger experience of friends, and then through our intimate relationships, through our workspaces. But at the heart of it, all we're ever looking for is to be fed. And whoever is most ready to feed us, we call that love. And that's the distorted aspect of love that most of us have experienced most of our lives. This hungry soul, and I want us to tune into the vibration of this soul. Because it's famished, it's not tuned into its umbilical cord that's feeding it. Although at the heart of that, if that soul were a desert, at the very depth of it, there's a beautiful, moist lakes and seas upon water, yes. But as you go up the layers, it's a drier layer and a drier layer, and the most parched, most dry, most cracked, drought-ridden desert land, which has not seen any rain. That's the state of most of the human souls. And so they are thirsty, they're hungry for even one drop of water, any water that falls upon it. And it will not recognize the purity of that drop of water, because all it wants in this moment is for one part of it to become moist. Whether that drop of water that's falling onto it has chemicals within it, or comes from gutter lands and comes with dis-ease, it doesn't matter. I just want this one drop of water. And we're witnessing that, subhanAllah, we're witnessing that when people are derived of clean water, they still need water. They would drink water in whichever form it comes. And that's what most of the human souls are ready to drink. Drink even a drop of moistness, whichever form it comes in, and call that love. And so its first experience of the famished soul's first experience of chemical-ridden moistness, which they call love, is through their parents. You will abuse me, you will put me on the side, you will deprioritize me, you will think of me as a liability or an extension of your desires or your dreams. You will try to fix me. You will try to change me. All of this you're doing out of love for me. All of this. And what will I do? Because remember, when we are dry, parched lands, we begin to abandon, forget the moist parts of ourselves that lie in our depths. So there is the deliberate blindfold that we begin to put upon our souls, or a deliberate armor that we begin to put on the layers of those lands. Because the depth of our soul knows what a pure water drop is, because it's been fed from the purity of the Raham of our Creator. So we know what love is in its purest, beautiful form. We know what love is. But because this world is not giving it to us, therefore, we have to put layers of steel. Subhanallah, like Zulkarnain did, put layers of steel to rope in Gog Magog. We do the same. We put layers of steel, what we call armors, upon our hearts and upon our souls, so that we begin to forget the taste of pure love. We forget, we don't even desire it. And we somehow get satisfied or get that satisfaction from those moist drops which are falling, chemical-ridden drops that are falling on our land. But that's not the nature of love, because once we experience that from our families and we begin to grow up, then it's that chemical-ridden water that some cracks of us are carrying that we then begin to take as children to the classrooms. And the thing is, because had this all been a solid, like a game of, I don't know, a solid universe with no with no vibration, if it were all just static, then people would have had to develop a different kind of sight to be able to identify dry deserts from oases, right? But the deserts we're talking about and the chemical drops that those deserts get used to through our childhoods and through our life experiences we're talking about, they all carry a vibration. So think of it as a song. At all times, there is a song or a vibration. So I'd like to call it a song that we are humming. And the drier the desert, the more chemical-ridden the desert, the nature of the song becomes that as well. And because we are at the root of it supremely afraid, its primary resonance that we're always carrying within ourselves is a fear, then what fear breeds, and we know that, what fear breeds is familiarity. So my dry desert chemical-ridden song would attract another dry desert's chemical-ridden song. And our two songs will find each other, and we will find the similarities and the common themes, and we'll call that love. And what in fact it is two dry deserts singing together of chemical-ridden moistness. And what in fact it is a trauma bond. And when we begin to truly look at all of our relationships, whether those are friendships or intimate relationships, or if we are parents, our relationships with our children, or if we are children in relationships with our parents, or with the colleagues, or with strangers, most of us are singing dry desert songs. And therefore, the songs which we are hearing and connecting with are other dry desert songs. And what we then experience is finding ourselves to be in loops. There's a loop that we create in our life, and we call it, this is how my life has been for as long as I remember. So this song loop that we are creating around ourselves, because our dry deserts are calling to other dry deserts, and together we are becoming even more dry. Because remember, the reason why we were calling to another dry desert is because we want to be fed. Now, of course, that's the same reason the other dry desert is calling to us, because they want to be fed. At the heart of it, it's a hungry soul. And a hungry soul would feed its hunger anything in order for it to feel less hungry. It would feed itself anything. It would feed itself lies. It would feed itself deliberate deception, self-inflicted deception. You know how we say love is blind? Well, yeah, trauma bonding is. Because we deliberately have to blind ourselves into receiving more chemical-ridden moistness from the other dry desert and allowing that to also take away our moistness to its own dry desert. So this mutually feeding of dry deserts is most of our relationships. And we do that, we transfer that to our children as well. Because our parents have transferred that to us, right? So we transfer it to our children as well. And no matter how different we want to be as parents from our own parents, there is a huck to the fact that some part of our lives as parents would be replicating the relationship that we had with our parents and transferring that onto our children, until, of course, we begin to want to step in and break ourselves out of that loop. So this dance that we have between the drynesses is the resonance, is the song of most of our relationships. But this song, and I want us to feel into it, this song requires a lot of energetic effort, because it is a made up song. It is not the original song. It's the same principle. For example, if there is, when you plant the seed of a mango tree in mitti, which is designed to hold space for that mango tree, it will blossom almost effortlessly because it's designed to blossom in that mitti. It's just designed to blossom. But if you take that mango seed and put it into a small pot, it's you're going to have to create an environment, a geographical environment that does not even support mango. Forget small pot, a geographical environment that does not even support the growth of mango trees because the mitti is not designed to hold space for it. Then you'll have to build greenhouses and you'll have to like pull in the science and you'll have to put in a lot of effort to grow that mango tree in an environment where it doesn't belong. And the theme here today through this session is for us to remember and to remember that the effort that it's taking for us to sing or to radio out those dry desert songs is unnatural, because the natural part of us, the heart part of us, the reality part of us, the haq part of us, is the moistness of our hearts, is the moistness that lies in the heart of that desert that we may have had to build multiple armors over. But the reality and the haq is the moistness. And unlike different kinds of labor, where, for example, if we are the desert and we remember that there's moistness at our heart, the mind would tell us we'll have to dig our way through it. So we'll have to start from the top and dig our way to the bottom. And that becomes very, very, very difficult. But this is not this particular moistness of the heart, this Raham of Allah, does not follow the dimensions of time and space. It doesn't. It's the original dimension which knows no time and space, which knows no logical, it's not linear. So when the desert wants to remember its moistness, it doesn't start digging from the top. It just remembers its moistness, and in its remembering, the moistness begins to automatically push through all the steel armors that we've built with such effort and begins to push and rise up from the depths of us and begins to fill up all the cracks of us and rises up to the surface, up to the surface, up to the surface, where as we see a sapling sprouting through the earth, there's a water that sprouts off from one crack and then more and more until the surface of us begins to get filled with the original moistness, with the original hub, with the original love, with the original wood, with the original nourishment from the Raham of our Creator. And it is this hub that we're asked to remember, even as we are singing our dry desert songs. And the most beautiful way of us remembering that hub, that wood, that is in the core of us. You take that core out and we do not exist. And we cannot take that core out because it is our core. It is the core of our existence. The most powerful way of remembering that is through zikr. There is no other aspect to it that would, and it's the easiest, because what zikr what zikr is time traveling. What zikr is defying spatial dimensions. What zikr is, where womb is one portal and grave is another, zikr activates its own portal. And the portal of zikr, and I want us to feel, say that we are a traveler in the desert. Say we are the desert. Say we are the dry desert, which has been singing dry desert songs our whole life. And we've seen evidence of it in our relationships, in the way that relationships have hurt us, in the way that we hurt people in relationships, in the way that circumstances have wounded us, in the way we wound people through our own life circumstances, believing that this is all we can give and all we are capable of. So say we are those dry deserts and we are singing our dry desert songs. Within the same desert of us, and I want us to close our eyes, please. And if we can just take a moment to take in a breath and drop down into our heart space. And what this dropping down into our heart space feels like is as if all the weight on our shoulders and in the middle of our throat, behind our ears and around our temples, it's all melting and flowing like waterfalls, falling right into the center of our heart. And now notice as we come into the center of our heart, the center of the heart is a small lake. And all around it would be the desert. All around it would be the cracked desert. That is the desert of our life and the rest of our experiences. But in this moment, we are the lake. This lake is the portal. This lake that was always there, in fact, on the surface. Because you notice you've not had to go down into the depths to receive this lake. This lake was always there on the surface, but because हमने इनकार किया हुआ है इस लेक का, तो हमारी आंख और हमारी सेंसेस भी इस लेक तक नहीं जाती, because our eyes are riveted on the dry cracks and our senses are focused on filling those dry cracks. But as we begin to observe this desert from this lake of us, which we are now in this moment tuned into, this is the portal that has the power through this particular water for this water to overflow and fill up the cracks of the rest of the desert. And isn't it interesting that we feel that the cracks would be filled by the rain, because that's how science has taught us. And when I say the rain, I mean something other than the desert will fill my cracks. Something other than my own lake will fill my cracks. So we wait for the rain. At the heart of it, we're waiting for rain. Whether that rain looks like a relationship, looks like our children loving us the way we want to be loved, looks like our parents validating our experiences the way we want them to validate them, whether it looks like our validation coming from our careers or from the strength of our friendships or the strength of our social circle, whatever we call that rain, at the end of it, at the heart of it, we are waiting for rain to fall upon us and fill up our cracks. And keep experimenting with different rain clouds, believing that that's where our nourishment will come from. But notice in this moment, as the point of view is from the lake light of your own heart and you're looking out into the desert, only this lake light has the strength of, has the capability, has the potential. No, it's been designed. This lake light does not just have the potential. It's been designed specifically. There is, subhanallah, we all know Surah Kausar, right? And that's why I keep saying keep talking about how Quran is such a stunningly multi-dimensional experience, not a book, multi-dimensional experience. Do you feel, because remember Surah Kausar was given at the time of the most terrible tragedy and of deep grief of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when there was derision and there was mockery and there was this sense of absolute isolation from his own community at the time of losing his child. He's sitting in his baramda, he's sitting in his sehn, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he can hear the laughter, he can hear the mockery. And he's holding the body of his child. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanallah. And in this moment, Surah Kausar is given to him. What is Surah Kausar? We've been taught Surah Kausar is a lake, is a chashma, which never grows dry, and will be fed from it at the time of Qiyamah. And it's the most beautiful, nourishing liquid, nourishing body of water that's been given to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that fulfilled him. What is Surah Kausar? Surah Kausar is an existing, this moment that you're tuned into, this late light of your heart, which is designed to fill in the cracks of your desert. This is Surah Kausar. This is Surah Kausar. It is not a lake that will reveal itself, or a chashma, or a waterfall, or a water body that would reveal itself. Kausar would reveal itself at the time of our union. The time of union is now. Why? Because we have tuned into the portal of our hearts. Our heart is the third portal, activated through zikr. There's a portal of the womb, there's a portal of the grave, and to have access to both portals simultaneously, we have the portal of the heart. And Surah Kausar is in the heart. This lake light that you've tuned into is Surah Kausar. Feel into it. Subhanallah, remember how they talk about Surah Kausar, कि इसका एक सिप ले लेंगे तो आपको दोबारा प्यास नहीं लगेगी. वो कौन सी प्यास है? वो कौन सी प्यास है जो नहीं लगेगी? वो रूह की प्यास है. And our रूहें know that प्यास. Our रूहें know that hunger. वो कौन सा एक ड्रॉप है जिसको पी लेंगे तो आपको दोबारा कभी किसी चीज की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. ये है वो ड्रॉप, only fed from the lake light of our heart, which is Kausar. We've been gifted with, we are the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We've been gifted Surah Kausar in our hearts. We have Surah Kausar, we have Kausar. And the gentleness of this surah, the vibration, because remember, multi-dimensional experience. Now feel into the vibration of this lake light of your heart. Or if lake light of your heart feels, I don't feel, it should feel distant, but if you want to tune into the vibration of Surah Kausar, let's tune into the vibration of Surah Kausar. Inna attain al-Kausar. Tune into the vibration. There's a softness, there's a milkiness, but not milkiness. There's a softness, there's a flowingness, there's a gentleness, there is a honeyness, there is a greenness, there is a verdantness that's flowing through its currents right now, flowing through it. And you notice that as you allow this greenness, this verdantness, this honeyness, this milkiness, which is not milkiness, to flow out through the lake light of your heart, and it begins to fill up the cracks of your heart, you notice that the way that it fills up those cracks is like a supremely skilled craftsman has sat down with its gold-tipped paintbrush and is filling in the cracks of a cracked vase. Perfect fitting in. And subhanallah, the beauty and the magic is, it's not as if, because we're not in the business of perfection. So as this particular Kausar of your heart begins to fill up the cracks of your desert, you notice how it's not like the cracks disappear. That again is a trauma wound. We do not, that's a trauma response to what we want to do with our cracks. It's not like the cracks disappear, but the cracks are becoming filled with the original nourishment that they always needed to begin with. And that original nourishment that is not waiting for rain. This is the beginning of divine love, which, by the way, has very little to do with the conventional definition of divinity and a lot to do with the human divinity. You, me. So when we speak of divine love, when we speak of being able to tune into the Kausar of our hearts, we are in fact meeting with our own divine source of love, our own, Madiha's own divine source of love, because in this moment, each one of our desert looks different. So it's not one source that can fill up all of our universal cracks in a generic way, or one Photoshop filter that can just take one brush and change the whole canvas of all of us. No, it's a particular brush. It's a particular Kausar for my heart, for my desert. It is this vibration that we're seeking when we're waiting for rain. And I want us to maybe get into the practice, or step into the practice of looking at or evaluating our current relationships, or evaluating the prospect of a new relationship when it enters our life, which is a simple practice, which is tune into the lake light of your heart, look into the desert of us, and see if there is any part of the desert that was waiting for the rain. Because you know, this concept of waiting for the rain means it's going to come from somewhere else or something else. This rain cloud will bring me what I need. There is no rain cloud designed for you to bring you what you need. There is no pantry or no well that can satisfy the hunger of your soul and the thirst of your soul, because you were born with it. You were born with it. Subhanallah, we are not in a universe, and we have not, our creator is not so limited that he would send, and not so, हमने उनसे इनकार किया है, उन्होंने हमसे इनकार नहीं किया. So our creator does not, through his womb, does not send a single human traveler into the world without their Kausar in their heart. And what that means is there is not a single human soul on this earth who has not been born with the ability to remember the Kausar of their heart, with the ability to find the way back home or to tune their way back home. Not a single. That means not a single traveler has been pushed off a slide from the heavens saying, go, you're on your own. No, there is whether you call it a backpack or a customized suitcase packed for you, or a Kausar, which is the umro yaar ki zambil ki tarah ki hai. Customized one, embedded within our system, within our soul code. Kausar is embedded in our soul code. It is a part of our soul because it's designed to feed us. And when, subhanAllah, when we get into the practice, and when we say, so we ask ourselves as we're evaluating our relationships, is there any part of my desert that's waiting for a rain cloud to come in and feed it? You will receive the answer. Why? Because right now your point of view is, you see, when you tune into your heart and you ask yourself this question, your heart is Kausar, and your point of view is already full. Your point of view is not thirsty. That means it's not seeking water. That means that you've been enabled to genuinely, as an observer, look at all parts of your desert and see which part of your desert is seeking rain. In this moment, we are divinely powerful because we just want to know, we're just curious, you see, because हमने अपने hearts के साथ tune in किया हुआ है, तो हमें भूख प्यास तो नहीं लग रही है. हम लोग full हैं. That means we're not seeking anything except for the truth. And when a full soul seeks the truth, that is the power of tuning into your heart space before you ask this question. When a full soul seeks the truth, especially of love, which is the most powerful alchemical force in the universe and also the most deceptive, then that full soul will receive the truth because it's not seeking to be fed from the truth. It just wants to receive the truth, you see? And this, at the heart of it, everything that we would ever do in our life, whether it was our achievements or our careers or our healing practices or our relationships or our friendships, whatever we would ever do in our life is always because either we want to be loved, okay, not either, because we want to be loved. We want to feel love. We want to feel that love. So the driving force of humanity is actually not survival. Because even when there were hunters and gatherers, even when the entire focus was, and remember, we carry those hunters and gatherers within ourselves. That's the reality of the human experience as well, which is the root chakra. So even when there were hunters and gatherers, there was a unit, a tribe, a kabila that they were seeking. There was a connection that they were seeking. Animals seek the same connection. Humans seek the same connection. So beyond the survival mode, in fact, our driving force for all human life is thriving, and the only way to thrive is love. And so at all points in our life, we're only ever seeking to be loved. The beautiful part is we are loved. We don't need to seek it. We need to remember it. And this Kausar in our heart, the lake light of our heart, is where our knowing that we are loved lies. The fullness of feeling that we are loved is what we all want to experience as souls. The fullness of the assurance that we are not abandoned. And I want us to feel into it, because we feel that we want people, we feel that we want families, we feel we want homes, we feel we want success, we feel that we want money. And no, what we really want to feel, if we put all of those illusions on the side, because those are things that we build for our dry cracks. If you put all of those things on our side, there's a little girl, a little boy who's asking their creator, अल्लाह आपने मुझे यहाँ पे क्यों भेजा? आपने मुझे abandon तो नहीं कर दिया? Do you still love me? It is that question at the heart of our soul that we're always carrying within ourselves. And the question is never asked from another human being, although we find our tongues asking that question. But the truth is, we're asking that question from our creator. Have you abandoned me? Do you still love me? Do you still love me? That's the question we're asking our creator at all times. Do you still love me? The question that we ask from the creator is the question that we end up seeking the answer for in most of our relationships, from our children, from our parents, from our partners, from our friends, from our offices. Oh, I'm messing up big time. I'm messing up big time. I don't know how to do this. I try, but I'm not being very successful at it. I'm failing. I will try even harder, because if not, I don't know if you would still love me. So do you still love me? Is the core of our distance from our creator and the core of most of our relationships. But as we begin to tune back into the lake light of our heart, which is Kausar, if our first instance of asking that question is not from another human being, especially when we have messed up, especially when we feel we have messed up, especially when we're doing that, if we can find it within ourselves to tune back to the space of our creator and ask our creator that question, do you still love me? We're asked to ask that question. This is zikr. In every moment of our lives, or especially in the heightened moments of our life, before we ask this question from anywhere else. Because you know what? When a servant asks their master, and what an excellent master he is, subhanallah. When a slave asks their master, do you still love me? This master would never just say yes, because he is not that master. That master will show you his yeses. He will show you his yeses. In every fiber of your being, you will feel his yes. In the way that when we get goosebumps, our cells, every cell will stand up in response to his yes. It will vibrate with his yes, but he will show you his yes through your body. He will show you his yes through your heart. No matter who you are, no matter which point of life you're in, no matter what you have done. Guna is not even a conversation right now. This is ishq ki conversation. This is not guna ki conversation. And in an ishq ki conversation, when you ask, no matter what we've done, when you ask him, do you still love me? The answer is an immediate and an absolute and a consistent yes every time. And we call this Ya Ghafar, Ya Ghafoor, Ya Rahim, right? This is what we call Raham. This is what we call him being Ghafar and Ya Ghafoor. Ghafar, the one who blankets us with his forgiveness. Ya Ghafoor, who is acutely forgiving. He goes into the depth immediately, like acutely forgiving. Ya Rahim, consistently, like the thandi consistency ke saath. Ya Ghafar, Ya Ghafoor, Ya Rahim. Ye, what we, through these names of Allah, what is the depth that we're reaching to? Hope. Do you still love me? What the depth we're reaching to is yes. Yes, I do. And now and in every lifetime, with every breath across all dimensions. That is always his answer. always his answer, which is why the most beloved to Allah is the one who returns to him again and again. Returns with what? Returns with what? He's not the master who's waiting for his slave to till the fields and return to him with bounty कि ये देखिए अल्लाह ताला मैंने ये अमाल इकट्ठे किए हैं इस पूरे दिन में. ये वो वाले बिकॉज उनको हमारे अमाल चाहिए नहीं है. This is the master. This is the master who's waiting for the slave who, no matter what they have done, अगर उनकी बोरी भरी हुई है, सुभान अल्लाह, उनके हाथों में कुछ भी नहीं है, सुभान अल्लाह, वापस आया. What is he returning? What is he waiting for our return for? Like what is that return? What is Unib? The one who returns again and again. Who is Unib? हम उसको कहते हैं अस्तगफार, हम उसे कहते हैं फॉरगिवनेस, बट वो उनीब ने अगर एक सवाल पूछना, वो क्या होगा? वो खाली हाथ भी अगर घर वापस आए और वो अपने मालिक से पूछे, डू यू स्टिल लव मी? दिस मालिक melts in love for him. Not only does he say yes, he melts in love for him. There's a Malik who would, when you go back empty-handed at the end of the day, you return to him. Unib, your only job, our only job is to return to him at the end of the day. Go back home at the end of the day. Do not stay out. Do not party out. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the physical, literal spaces I'm talking about. I'm talking about the soul space. In your soul, go back home to him every night. Go back empty-handed. Most of us feel that we have gathered a lot during the day. पे हमने आज बड़ी नमाजें पढ़ी, बड़े सजदे किए, बड़े सदके किए, उस लोगों को मैंने मुस्कुरा के देखा, वहां पे मैंने अपनी ज़बान को कंट्रोल किया. Have we done? I don't know. I don't know what those amal weigh in the divine scale. So I may feel like I'm going back with दो भरी हुई बोरियां. In reality, in the haq of it, my bori may not even weigh anything. And another person who's done nothing the whole day and goes back empty-handed, both of them, subhanallah, are equal, subhanallah, in that moment, in the love of our creator. Both of them have come back home to him. And both of them, at the heart of them, are asking one question: do you still love me? Do you love me? And in his answer, an ordinary Malik would perhaps just hug you and reassure you. Like, that's what the closest we know to our Malik is our mother. She would hug you, full of compassion and driven with, she would hug you and she would kiss you. It's like, of course, beta, of course I love you. This one, when he is asked this question, do you love me? He melts. He melts. Like the vibration of us returning back home is so powerful that he melts and we melt into him. He doesn't hug us, he melts. The room overflows with his melting. We dissolve in this melting. We feel his love. He doesn't just say yes. He shows us yes. He shows us yes. And this melting, when it fills every crack of us, in the depths of our cracks, with this fullness, when we wake up, in this fullness, when we step out into the day, we're finally, after such a long time, not waiting for a rain cloud. And subhanallah, what life becomes when we're not waiting for a rain cloud. Because now, when we're not waiting for rain clouds, you know what happens? Because now this desert is verdant. Now this desert feels not hungry, not thirsty. It feels good about itself. It feels good about being a desert. It doesn't want to be a valley of irises anymore. It's feeling full because मेरे पास कौसर है. और मुझे जो feeding source है, मेरा जो कुआं है, मेरा जो चारा है, वो मेरे कौसर से आ रहा है. तो अब ये desert is feeling good about itself. अब क्या होगा? अब जो दूसरे डेजर्ट से चलने वाले कारवान हैं, वो रुकेंगे इस डेजर्ट में. Because remember, now we're always still vibrating. Now we are the song that we're singing, still the song that we're always singing a song. It is a soul vibration. The song that we are singing is a song of love, is a full song. It's a song that carries moistness. It's a song that smells fragrant. Subhanallah is a fragrant song. It smells a certain way. And बाकी जो सारे caravans गुजर रहे हैं, they're attracted to this. और वो चाहे जितने मर्जी भूखे प्यासे हों, they're attracted to this not because they want to take, very few would want to take something and call it their own, but they can't also take it. You know what we call, they're energy vampires. वो मेरी energy suck कर रहे हैं, मुझसे मेरी energy ले रहे हैं.
वो एक तो ये कि हमारी एनर्जी है नहीं, because when we say my energy, we are in our desert crack space. When we say the energy, there's always one divine energy. That's always Kausar, that's always the heart. वो हार्ट हमारा है नहीं, वो हार्ट अलग अलग है. वो फीडिंग करने वाले भी वो हैं, उसको भरने वाले भी वो हैं, उसको संभालने वाले भी वही हैं. सो वो हमारी एनर्जी से कुछ ले ही नहीं सकते हैं. तो जिस एनर्जी के साथ उन्होंने कनेक्ट किया है वो आपकी हार्ट, वो काउसर है. जब काउसर के साथ उन्होंने कनेक्ट किया तो देयर इज नो वैम्पायर स्टेट देयर एनीवे. उनको जब उसका एक ड्रॉप भी मिलता है वो खुद ब खुद भरना शुरू हो जाते हैं. इवन इफ दे आर एनर्जी वैम्पायर्स, इवन इफ वी फील दैट दे आर crossing our boundaries or sucking us of the energy. No, when we are connected to our heart space, they are feeding from the divine source. They're feeding from the divine source. Subhanallah. And this divine source, there is no ego around it. Because मैंने तो वो सोर्स पैदा नहीं किया, कौसर बनाने वाली मैं नहीं. मैं तो बीच में I'm not even the Zaria. My Kausar song brought them to this Kausar. It is, how am I even the Vasila? My Kausar song, I don't own it. It's a divine song which brought them to this Kausar. Subhanallah, ये उनकी किस्मत है. जिस तरह मेरी किस्मत थी कि मैंने किसी और की कौसर में से, उन्होंने, they allowed me to tune in and taste a little bit. And all we ever need is one drop. All we ever need is one drop. Subhanallah. All we ever need is one drop. So meri kismat thi, subhanallah, through the duas of my ancestors and of my parents, and Allah knows for what, कि I heard that song, और वो मेरी किस्मत के मैंने वो song सुना उस कौसर का, और उसमें से एक कतरा मैंने टेस्ट किया, और फिर मुझे अपनी कौसर याद आई, तो मेरी अपनी कौसर मुझे याद रही ज़्यादातर. तो फिर अब मैंने कौसर का सॉन्ग गाना शुरू किया. तो मेरी सॉन्ग ने, मैंने तो किया नहीं, मेरे वो खुद ब खुद सॉन्ग शुरू हुआ. तो अब और तो लोग आएंगे ना, बिकॉज इट्स अ सिलसिला, it's a connection, it's a chain, and they're not taking anything from me. It's like we become porous and invisible, really, and all there is just a clear feeding. If there was like a water network set out, a pipe network, वो एक कौसर है connected to this कौसर, connected to that कौसर, connected to that कौसर, बीच में ह्यूमन इंसान का तो कोई लेना देना है ही नहीं. तो फिर मेरा तो बीच में कोई रह ही नहीं. I don't have a role to play. They've just come here. They must have come here to feed. If they find what they're looking for, they will stay. If they, or actually no, if they find what they're looking for, they'll take it and they'll leave. If they don't find they're looking for, they'll leave anyway. In all instances, now look at the quality of our relationship. Subhanallah. In all instances, we're not asking people to stay. We're not asking people to sit with us and sing songs with us, or to tell us how loved we are, because we feel full. And in all instances, we realize that people will stay for a while that they need to stay in whatever they need to receive, and then they'll move on. That staying could look like a few days or for a few years, but they move on. They move on, and we don't need them to stay. We don't need them to stay because we're not looking for rain clouds anymore. And we trust our soul song enough, which is moist enough and rich enough. We trust them enough कि यहाँ पे कोई ना कोई आता रहेगा. And whoever comes is here for a right purpose. It's a divinely aligned purpose, not my purpose. So all I can do is look at them with curiosity and with a lot of gratitude and a lot of wonder as to, subhanallah, what must their soul song be that was seeking this particular soul song. So then I become curious and I become wondrous about the nature of their soul, the nature of their cause. Because अब मुझे उनसे कुछ नहीं चाहिए. अब मुझे अपने बेटे से, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, कुछ नहीं चाहिए. तो नाउ आई एम मोर क्यूरियस अबाउट कि इसके डेजर्ट की नेचर क्या है, इसके क्रैक्स की नेचर क्या है. अगर ये खिंचा चला आता है मेरे पास, मुझसे ये बात पूछता है, वो पूछता है, तो इसका मतलब है कि इसकी कौसर जो है, सीकिंग कौसर. एंड राइट नाउ in whatever Allah Ta'ala has enabled both of us to be, he can receive whatever he needs to receive from here. But that's it. Do I need him to take care of me? Do I need him to respect me? Do I need him? I don't need anything from him. Anything that I'm seeking from my own son. I speak of my son because it's the closest possession that we have. as human beings, the strongest form of identity. We like to control our children. We like to possess our children. Even if we don't control them, we like to possess them, and we call that love. Subhanallah. And we know by now, this is not love. Anything that wants another to stay with you is not love. Anything that wants another to give something to you is not love. But when two sovereign souls, when two Kausar souls are with each other, there is a mutual feeding and there's a mutual dynamic song dance, a duet, if you please, whether it's between your partner or your parents or your children or your friends or your colleagues or whoever. There's a duet that's being sung, which has nothing to do with us. And that duet is being sung because there's an original resonance of Kausar in mine and another original resonance in my son's heart that wants to sing it. It's nothing to do with me. It's nothing to do with my son. And till as long as that duet is ordained by my creator, who is also the owner of Kausar, who is the owner of my heart, till as long as that song is ordained to be sung, it will be sung. And when it is not ordained to be sung, then he will leave or I will leave. What's the big, what's the drama here? Yes, though, in that song, in that duet being sung, when two Kausars are singing a duet, because it's a divine song, it stems from divine love. And divine love feels an incredible responsibility, and that's how we begin to get familiar with what the original resonance of original love. कि जो divine love का जो song है ना, उसकी जो core है is an incredible, like junoon की हद तक responsibility. That divine soul feels a junoon की हद तक की responsibility upon their own self, and therefore they extend that to the other. And because we've been brought up, हमारा ख्याल है love is all about rights. हमारा ये राइट है, हमारा वो राइट है, कुरान ने औरत को ये राइट दिया है, मर्दों को ये राइट दिया है, औरतों को ये राइट दिया है, पेरेंट्स को ये राइट दिया है, बच्चों को ये राइट दिया है, बीवी है, मर्द मियाँ को ये राइट. राइट्स. The core of love is not a right. You know that? The core of love is a responsibility. And what the other soul wants to do as a result of us feeling extremely responsible for our own vibration is their responsibility. And when two individuals connected to Kausar are equally radically responsible for their own selves, they then begin to have rights upon another. So rights are never born from an unequal place. They're always born from an equal place, and the equal place can only come when we have an equal responsibility. That means that in a parent-child relationship, my first question that I need to ask myself is not what is my right upon them as a parent. No, what is my responsibility as a parent? What is my responsibility as a director? What is my responsibility as a daughter? What is my responsibility as a neighbor? What is my responsibility as a wife? What is my responsibility as a friend? And how much can I do right by that responsibility? When I am, as much as possible, doing right by that responsibility and being extremely honest when I can't, then even when I'm being honest when I can't do right by that responsibility, then I have the right to even ask my rights. But we skip that step because we don't understand the resonance of divine love. And how do we know the resonance of divine love is responsibility? Look at Allah through the 99 names of Allah. He has taken through the 99 different measures and ways of expressing his love for us. He has shown us 99 different ways of how he is taking our responsibility. So at the core of Allah, the core of Allah is one who takes responsibility. The core of love is the one who takes responsibility. Rights are not even in question. Allah first takes responsibility. And in the same way, when we are connected to the resonance of Allah, the first question we are asked to ask ourselves in any relationship is, what is our responsibility? And when we are doing right by our responsibility, then release other people from being responsible from their own selves, because it's not our job to make them responsible for them. There is a Kausar that they have as well. It's only when we feel, and that's the ego speak, that's the ego identity where, oh, look, I have Kausar. Come feed from my Kausar. That's my ego talking. Now I want to be of service. Now I want to be of use. Now I feel like I need to heal people. I need to save people. I need for them to see this. And no, my job is to send out the invite, which is to say, my job is to be aware of the soul song that I'm singing. That's it. And be responsible for that soul song. Whichever caravan decides to stop by or not stop, and not my responsibility. Or if somebody was sitting there and they decide to get up and leave, not my responsibility. As long as I am doing right by myself, which is my responsibility upon my own soul. That's all I'm responsible for. But हाँ, अगर कोई और आता है और मेरे साथ कुछ देर बैठता है and I observe कि वो भी इसी तरह अपनी humongously responsible है, whether it's my child or my parent or whatever, towards their own self, then together we sing a duet. But in some cases, for example, we're born in families, and this is specifically true for genetic family trauma or generational trauma. We're born in families where our parents, perhaps, or our siblings, do not remember their soul songs, and they're not tuned into their Kausar, and you are. Now, it's an especially painful position to be in, because ये तो रिश्ता है रहम है, क्योंकि आपका डेजर्ट इनके डेजर्ट के साथ, ये तो बॉर्डर्स के ऊपर आप दीवारें भी नहीं खड़ी कर सकते हो, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पे कोई बॉर्डर ही नहीं है, ये तो जनरेशनल डेजर्ट है, ये तो जेनेटिक लिनिएज है हमारी जो क्रैक्ड है सारी, और उसमें से एक हिस्से ने रिमेंबर किया है अपना लेक. And now what? Now we want everybody else to also remember their lake, because they can't treat me like this. And they're continuously siphoning off my energy, so they can't do that. Well, if we feel that A, they also need to change, B, they need to treat us better, C, they also need to remember their Kausar. However we look at, if we still feel that way, that means we're not truly tuned into our Kausar, because the headiness, subhanallah, when we say that there is a sharab that's going, Allah Ta'ala speaks to it of it in the Quran, there's a sharab that's going to be given to us, a wine, jiska nasha aisa hoga that will not make you have a hangover. वो क्या है wine? The same way Kausar is not Kausar. The same way we're carrying it in our heart. What is that wine? वो प्यार का नशा है, वो अपने सॉन्ग का नशा है, वो उस इश्क का नशा है. जब हमें अपनी कौसर के अंदर बैठे रहते हैं, हमें इसका टेस्ट मालूम होता है, हमें इसकी फ्रीक्वेंसी मालूम होती है, हमें उसकी खैर मालूम होती है, उसकी we begin to get familiar with its ripples and with its waves, and how, oh my God, it's just an entire dance, like ये इश्क की उस दरिया में जो है हम लोग डूबते रहते हैं. तो अगर हमारी नजर फिर भी किसी और के ऊपर जा रही है, चाहे वो हमारा नेबर ही क्यों नहीं है, नेबर मतलब डेजर्ट नेबर मतलब हमारी जेनेटिक लिनिएज, तो अगर हमारी नजर उनके ऊपर जा रही है, इसका मतलब है कि हमारी कौसर अभी इतनी स्ट्रांग नहीं है, हम इतनी स्ट्रांगली ट्यून्ड इन नहीं है. कौसर तो हमेशा स्ट्रांग ही होती है, हम लोग ट्यून्ड इन नहीं है उसके अंदर. So when my ankh is going towards my unhealed parent or my unhealed sibling or my unhealed child or my unhealed partner, what is the answer? I want to tune back into my Kausar and get even more drunk in my Kausar. So drunk that I don't see this. Now that is not equal to idiocy, because when you feel so drunk, you don't see them, you know what happens? And this is the truth of a person who जिसको किसी किस्म का भी नशा चढ़ा हुआ होता है, वो उसी आंखों से दुनिया को देखता है, correct? It's not like you can be drunk in your heart and your eyes can remain sober. It doesn't work that way. Every part of your being becomes drenched and becomes drunk. So when you're so drunk in our own Kausar, the way that we look at the world is from a drunkard's eyes. And subhanallah, what a gaze. Subhanallah, what a gaze. Because उस drunkard eye में हम उनसे अब कुछ आ ही नहीं रहे होते हैं. हम ना उनको ठीक करना चाह रहे होते हैं, ना उनसे प्यार लेना चाह रहे होते हैं, ना उनसे कुछ नहीं लेना चाह रहे होते, कुछ भी नहीं करना चाह रहे होते हैं उस मोमेंट, उस नजर में, उस गेज में, जब उनसे कुछ चाह नहीं रहे होते हैं. और अगेन रिमेंबर, हम लोग एक सोल सॉन्ग गा रहे हैं, जो जिनकी वाइब्रेशन ड्राई नहीं है, वो सोल सॉन्ग गा रहे हैं जिनकी वाइब्रेशन ड्राई है. उसके ड्राई सोल सॉन्ग ने हमारी मॉइस्ट सोल सॉन्ग को मिला. हमारा एक कतरा हो ही नहीं सकता कि उस ड्राई सोल सॉन्ग के अंदर मर्ज ना करे, और हो ही नहीं सकता, हो ही नहीं सकता. Although we're not even trying, we don't want to heal them, but because we are drunk in that love of Kausar, it cannot be that the moistness of our song does not just a little bit drip into the dryness of theirs. And then you begin to observe how it begins to transform them if they're ready to receive it. And then you begin to observe how easy it is for you to release them, even if they're not. Subhanallah, your own abuses. It's so easy for you to release them, even if they're not ready to. Because your Kausar is enough for you. Because your Allah, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. What is this? What is this, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel? What is this? Made me so drunk in my own Kausar that it is enough for me. It is enough for me. And every time that it is not enough for me, enable me to come back to my lake. Enable me not just to drink from it, but to step into it. Enable me to dissolve into it, so that each qatra of my Kausar says Allah. Each qatra of my Kausar stands witness upon who you are, my love. Who in every moment that I have come back home empty-handed, with nothing to show for my day, for nothing to show for my whole experience, perhaps, of years upon years. After decades, I come back home and I have nothing in my hands. And I open the door. The door is always open. It's never locked. I open the door. I step into the house. You're sitting here. And I said, do you love me? Do you still love me? Doesn't ask, where have you been? Doesn't ask, oh, it's been so long since you've come to meet me. Doesn't ask, look at your kapre. Doesn't say, look at your halat. I ask him, do you love me? He melts. He melts. His yes is a melting. And in his melting, my each self, I melt in him and I say yes. Subhanallah. He does not say yes. I feel his yes. I become him. I say yes. My self says Allahu Akbar. My self says Allah. My self says yes. I love you in every lifetime, across 1,000 lifetimes, in every dimension, in between every dimension. You take as long as you need to take. You come back home. And I will answer always with, do you love me? I will answer with a yes. And you will feel that yes. I will show you that yes in every pore of your body, as is my promise to you. And so if we can remind ourselves to say this beautiful dua, which I found about 3 to 4 months ago. And it's a dua that is all about love. Allahumma inni Asaluka Hubbaka wa Hubba man Yuhibbuka Amal lazi Yuballighuni Hubbaka Hubbaka Hubba Ahabba ilalyya min Nafsi wa Ahli Wa Min. Oh Allah, I ask you for your love, the love of those who love you, and deeds which will cause me to attain your love. Oh Allah, make your love dearer to me than myself, my family, and subhanallah, look at the end of this, and the cold water. And the cold water. This dua has been given for dry desert. Subhanallah, Ameen, Allahumma Ameen. This dua has been given for dry deserts. How is it? Because it cannot be that I can tune into my own dry desert and see my own Kausar without my Allah having written that in Lohe Mahfuz. Thousands of years before even my soul was created. So it cannot be that I am aware of my dry desert and my Allah is not. It cannot be that my Allah is not prepared for my dry desert. He's given me a dua. And the cold water, like Subhanallah. आपको कैसे पता है कि मेरा रेगिस्तान इतना कि मैं रेगिस्तान हूँ? सबसे पहले आपको कैसे पता है कि मैं सूखी हूँ? आपको कैसे पता है कि मैं बारिश का इंतजार कर रही हूँ? कैसे पता है? कोल्ड वाटर। ये क्यों मुझे आप कह रहे हैं? ये भी तो कह सकते थे कि बस लुक मेक मी लव यू एंड बी अराउंड पीपल हु लव मी एंड लव लव लव। ये कोल्ड वाटर की आपने बात क्यों की? Because he melts. He doesn't just say yes. He melts. He melts. Kausar is him. He melts. It's his strong, potent vibration of love is Kausar. Of course, only in his melting can we stand witness upon his love upon us. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah.